We tend to hide our animal abuse behind closed doors and pretend that they're not there.
Welcome to the Hen Report. This is Jasmin Singer.
This is Mariann Sullivan.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Just a quick reminder, Rising Anxieties comes out on Tuesdays, the Hen Report on Thursdays, and the long-form interview on Fridays. And Bonus for Flock members comes out on Mondays. We're on YouTube. We're also on all of the places where you might listen to podcasts. So hit subscribe and like and comment wherever you listen. Vicky told me that there have been some really typical internet comments, let's just say. Like sometimes people will find us on YouTube shorts or something like that and say horrible things. And she'll just, if people engage with it, then she'll leave it. But if someone just says something horrible,
If it's like really vicious or
she'll delete it.
Yeah.
But I was kind of like, ooh, we've made it.
Wait, thank God we have Vicky to do this.
I know.
I would have to be hospitalized.
I was so excited, though.
I'm not good at reading. Oh, that we're getting randos?
Yeah, we're getting randos. I was like,
hi,
yeah.
Randos.
Welcome
Nice
to our
to
Hen
see you.
So this is rando. I might have mentioned that I have mentioned that I got into Moore is teaching me how to sew. She's like an expert sewer. And I've really
I
been
mentioned the other
enjoying
day that makes me really nervous because I don't think of you as someone who's good at operating heavy machinery, but you said it's safe.
I still have most of my fingers intact. Yeah, it's safe. It's safe. But I was using like vegan leathers and I was like cork and I actually did get to school a friend of mine about like Pinatex and mushroom leather and coffee leathers. So that was a good teaching opportunity. Mostly what I like to do is repurpose things that I find that already exist. But I did make someone a wallet recently, and I got sort of stuck in this rabbit hole of like looking at all of these leather patterns because I'm using a vegan leather, and I realize how much I'm looking at leather patterns lately, and it's
that's
so
gross.
weird. I know. And I'll tell you, one of the patterns I saw was for like making animals like a cow and a pig out of leather, and I was like,
Oh
wow.
my God.
Yeah, it's
People
it's
are
unbelievable.
just so sick.
But I will tell you that I feel like powerful when I'm looking at it because I'm like, I'll show you. I'm going to make that, but vegan.
That'll do it.
That'll save the animals.
That'll do it. That'll change the world.
It did make me think about how we are constantly having to veganize things in our head, even even if it's like a non-vegan site or pattern or piece of music or whatever. Piece of music
we do?
Well, I was thinking
What
about
do you mean?
Okay, for piece of music, I was thinking about actually I confused veganism and like gay things again because I confuse them sometimes. But like if I'm listening to a love song, I will just change it to like being about two women, for example. And I've been doing that for decades.
We don't change it. I mean, unless
in my
you
head
have to actually change the lyrics. I mean, but most of the songs would just apply to whoever you love, unless
but
it actually identifies somebody by gender or sex or whatever we call it.
Right. Well, in any case, if you look at it from a vegan perspective, it's like I have watched the Great British Bake Off. I know you have too.
Oh, yeah. Great British Bake Off. I agree. Why can we watch it? I don't understand how we can watch it, but I'm actually sick of it. I don't watch it anymore. But I did go through a period of watching it a lot. And it kind of astounded me that I just allowed myself to go there.
You have to pretend it's vegan, though. I mean,
I don't know whether I do that.
I do.
I just turn my brain off.
I
don't really understand it. I don't understand the process. I'm sure we do it all the time and don't even notice we're doing it. But in that situation, it was so obvious. Well, I just don't think about it, what they're actually using.
I think about how to veganize it in my head. And then if something is, I mean, I'm not really a baker or a cook or a food person at all.
I would be pretty excited if you switched away from sewing and got into baking. And then had all sorts of extra muffins that you wanted to No, I guess it would be bad.
You wouldn't. I'm not good enough. I put like black
I didn't mean
beans.
that. I just mean that I would be eating too many muffins.
But I also put like black beans and spinach and things when I bake them. And
it's true.
I'm not
all right,
fun.
Forget that.
But the other thing is we watch I think it's called the British Sewing Bee. We watch it on
I
YouTube.
don't know that. Sounds
It's
like you.
it's another thing that, like, they'll have challenges and they'll be like, "Here's a silk challenge," or something, and I'll be, in my head, I'm like, "Okay, you could use this fabric or that fabric or" and I just really feel strongly that I get to enjoy my life too, and I get to just do it through a vegan
You don't have
lens.
to defend it. It's fine.
I had a friend write to me the other day and say that she wanted to visit Morocco because she was going to be near Morocco, and she said she didn't know how to handle the fact that there were going to be, like, snake charmers, which is I had to look it up because I didn't know this, but
There are snake charmers
snake
still?
charmers are a
I identify
well-known.
snake charmers kind of with India. I guess I have that all completely wrong.
I don't know. Honestly, this is, like, 10 seconds of Googling information, but snake charmers are a well-known traditional site in Morocco.
Okay.
And so she was like, "I don't know how I would handle that," and I said, "Well, A, I don't really know what you're talking about, but B, like, enjoy your life, go, and if there's a snake charmer, walk past it and go into the vegan restaurant behind it."
Yeah, you kinda have to do that no matter where you
Everywhere.
are.
I
Yeah,
remember when
and,
I f
but I do find traveling to be particularly difficult. Traveling to, far off places that you don't know well and you're not familiar with, and you really feel like a stranger. And there are forms of animal abuse, I think, in other countries that are more out in the open. We tend to hide our animal abuse behind closed doors and pretend that they're not there. And you just like I don't want to go someplace to be sickened by something. I don't wanna go someplace to be judgmental of people. Like, it's hard, so I just stay home. That's my solution,
I don't
which is
wanna
kinda what I wanted to do, and I read a book about Morocco. That's so much better,
honestly,
but
I
not
just feel
everybody
really
has my point
grateful.
of view.
I feel really grateful and unbelievably privileged that, like, for the first, I don't know, 40 years of my life or something, or mostly in my 20s and 30s, a lot of which was with you, I got to travel quite a lot, and so now I just think, well, I'm feeling slightly agoraphobic these days. The world is terrifying me. I feel much more aware of the climate toll of flying. It's also become extremely expensive to travel, whereas I think even 5, 10 years ago, it wasn't, nearly as expensive, and so I'm glad I got my
Well,
yayas
that's good.
out.
That's
Yeah,
good.
but
I
the
mean, it's good that
point.
you don't feel bad about it. I guess some people just really like, I just don't understand it. Like it is very expensive, and just some people just wanna most people, I think. I mean, I think I'm the weird one that just wanna go places, just wanna see things,
I
like, see it
mean,
before I die.
well,
Uh,
but you say this as a
I just
person who
don't feel that
has seen,
way.
but you've seen a lot of places.
I have seen some things. I mean, but there's plenty of places I haven't seen, and it's not like I wanna keep doing it. It
But
just
would
shut
the
down at
w
some point.
bringing it back to the animals, like you mentioned, I remember, one this has happened in lots of places I visited, but one of them that springs to mind is when we went to the very, very beautiful, land of Puerto Rico. There's stray animals, stray dogs everywhere, but, like, it's not any different than here. We just throw them in
Well, yeah,
shelters and kill them here.
yeah, no, that was the point I was making
Yeah,
before, yeah.
exactly. So
But it
I
is more visible. And, like if you're going someplace to enjoy yourself, that makes a difference.
Yeah, right. It
It's
d
not more immoral than
does it impact is that part of why you don't wanna travel at all?
no, I
Okay.
don't think so. I mean, I guess it's an ad I just don't want to. I mean, I just don't. I like to stay home. I know I'm so boring. I would much I also I'm not a very social person. I don't get to know people easily. I don't strike up conversations easily. Well, if I read a book, a really good book, either I love travel books, that are
Mhm.
like nonfiction about travel, if they're good. And I learn so much more about a place doing that than if I just walk around in a place. It's just I don't feel like I really absorb much.
I will say that
But
you
it's true. I've been to a lot of places, but I don't think that's the only thing. I mean,
you
I haven't been to
love
that many places.
you love day trips, and we Moore and I, one of our gifts for you, for Christmas, this past Christmas and the Christmas before it, was like a monthly adventure, basically, and so in 2025, we went to, like, a different local site, like a museum or something every month, and this year, it's just, like, a town nearby Rochester, like, however, banal the town might
Yeah, because I
be.
mean, and I think it's great because since I haven't lived here that long, you hear about a town and people who
You
have grew up
yeah,
here at some point in their life they were there or they drove through it or they had, I don't have that map in my head of what the
yeah.
area around here looks like.
But I think it's fun from a vegan perspective too. Like last month, we went to this tiny little, town called Rush, and
No, we went to Lima.
Lima. I always confuse them.
I
Lima,
think they're right next to each
as
other.
in the bean. And we found this little cafe, and they had a ton of vegan things, and like we never would have found that otherwise. And so I'm looking
Yeah,
forward.
we didn't talk about that at all, like,
We
before,
did.
because
I think
we
we
also
did.
yeah, it also had a very, 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 very old hotel that was so cool.
The
I loved
American.
going there.
Well,
We
we
didn't get
said
to eat there because they had 8 soups. That's all they serve is soup. It's very eccentric, and they didn't know whether they thought one of them was vegan, but it wasn't the chef, and she wasn't there, so they weren't sure, so we didn't eat it, but that was really cool.
right. Well,
Like,
all
that's the thing, I love discovering weird little things like that. When I'm talking about old, I mean, like, it was probably from the, well, early 1800s, and it's
yeah.
never been renovated, like, it was crazy.
Yeah, for sure. But I guess the whole point of all this is that, like,
Yeah, what is the
going
point about any of
going
this?
through life with, like, a vegan lens can hinder you when you look at it from the perspective of the animal exploitation that you will be confronted with, but it can really liberate you when you think about all of the opportunities you can create in both in terms of your own experience, but also in spreading the word in these, like, random.
Totally, totally.
So, it's quite
That's why I
enjoyable.
have you told me we couldn't talk about this because we already talked about it, which is probably true, I just forget, but that's why I have my new plan is to go to restaurants and have no idea what's on the menu and just try to see if I can put together a vegan meal, which I know can be very frustrating, but that's kind of the adventure.
Okay. Well, to each their own, have the adventure and report back. Um, all right, let's talk about some good news.
Yeah, well, actually, I have a couple of good news
Yeah, I
stories.
always like that.
Um, waste to and this is like the big thing because I've been talking about this like pretty much every week. Um, the use of manure to to get methane, which
Mhm.
then dairy farms can sell. And according to Sentient Media, manure to energy digesters were sold as a climate fix. They certainly were, especially in California, California is the centerpiece of this. Um, but now the USDA is hitting pause, a 90-day pause due to loan delinquency, whatever that means, may signal that the viability of anaerobic digesters is being scrutinized at the federal level. I mean, nothing here is certain yet, but they are definitely looking at this, and they've already allocated hundreds of millions of dollars towards these ridiculous anaerobic digester projects. And now they're like thinking, well, maybe not. So let's definitely keep an eye on this. This is a really important story. It's in Sentient Media if you want to take a look at it. I would love to see this end. This is one of, I talk about this all the time, how the dairy industry is just trying to come up with more ways to make money. I mean, I talked about beef on dairy. Uh, on Rising Anxieties this week, and this is just another really important piece of their plan to create methane, create it like it's a fossil fuel, but you could also create it, that is very, very damaging to the climate if you just release it into the air and sell it to people so that they can use it to create energy, which is also very damaging to the climate, just not quite as much as if you release it. It's the most insane thing in the world, and I am excited that somebody seem to have put a spanner in the works. Not clear yet what's going to happen.
We'll keep an
And
eye on it.
I'm not terribly hopeful about anything these days. All right, my other piece of good news is about Indonesia. This was all over the internet, and it doesn't seem that big, but apparently, whenever we're talking about any kind of animal abuse, it may not be that big in the big scheme of things, but it's very big for the animals concerned. It can be a lot of animals, and Indonesia has banned elephant rides in zoos, which are apparently a big thing in Indonesia.
Hmm.
And the only caveat in this article, which is in plant-based news, is that they're worried about enforcement. That you know how it so often happens with animal protection laws that everybody gets together, does something that sounds good, and then don't enforce it. But this is great. This really indicates a changing uh, attitude towards elephants, and
Did you
the people can't be nice to elephants. Like there's no hope.
did you have elephant rides when you were a kid, when you were growing up?
No, no,
Mm.
never did an elephant ride. No.
I think that I went to this was a file folder back in the back of my head, but I think that I was taken to a circus where they let little children ride the elephants. I'm not sure I did it. But I do remember that it happened, and it's just
I mean, I heard about it, but I don't know when I heard about it. But no, that
yeah.
wasn't part of my life. The only
Well,
circus I ever went to, sad to say, was Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey. That was at Madison Square Garden in in the middle of the city. They did not have elephant rides.
mhm, mhm. I the things we thought were just normal. Uh,
God,
what?
that song. I was thinking of that Paul Simon song. When I look back at all the things I learned in high school, it's a wonder I can think at all. Boy,
Yeah.
ain't that the truth?
Well, when I think back at all the animals I exploited, I'm just so grateful to be vegan. Speaking of exploiting animals, what is this next story from
Oh,
Factory
this is
Farm
just
Watch?
something interesting that I'm very. I mean, I had no idea they were doing this. This is from direct action everywhere. Well, what you think of is for direct action, and maybe this is a tool for direct action. But this is just in California, but it's fascinating. They have put together this amazing resource called Factory Farm Watch that identifies every factory farm in California. That's over 1,300, and map them, describe them, talked about what animals are there, and
Wow.
I think everybody should know about this. Incredibly
Factory
useful resource. And I just didn't realize that they were doing this kind of work. So good for them.
factoryfarmwatch.org is the website. It really is an incredible resource. Wow. So Faunalytics is such an
Yeah,
incredible
another resource
organization.
here.
Yeah,
This is not. I love the work that Faunalytics does.
me too.
This is about a study they did, and the name of the article is "Voluntary Compliance Fails Birds at U.S. Slaughterhouses." Well, isn't that a shocker? that they would have advice. The government would give advice to people who raise birds for slaughter, and tell them that this is what they should do. And you know what? They don't, because there's no enforcement. This article starts out. The summary here is by Megan Kant, and the original study is by Jones, Strong, and Kelly. Um, and Basically, the federal government allows the poultry industry to essentially police itself, leading to widespread animal suffering at slaughter. Now, we all know, or most of us know, or if you don't know, I'll tell you, that birds are not considered covered. I think you could make the argument that they have, but it's never worked in court, at least so far. They are not covered by the Humane Methods of Slaughter Act, which is the federal law that governs basically, it covers some handling and other factors, but the big thing is that they're supposed to be unconscious when their throats are slit. How demanding these animals are. Come on. How much do they want from us? And so these authors looked into the 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 advice basically that the USDA has given to poultry companies, that
Mm.
they should follow good commercial practices. However, there's no enforcement, and who knows what that means anyway. And so they conclude that it's obviously completely inadequate, and that this is interesting. The program that was in which they tried to get people to voluntarily comply was likely created to ease public concern rather than to prevent mistreatment. Yeah, a lot of things, a lot of laws about animals are exactly for that reason. So also, I won't go on about it. It's depressing because it talks a lot about very severe suffering. But if this isn't an issue that you're interested in, you really gotta see this study, and they do have some advice for action people can take, which has a lot to do with notifying the USDA. I don't know how
Mhm.
open they are at the moment to doing anything useful, but if we don't keep an eye on it, nobody else will.
And while you're there at Faunalytics' website, faunalytics.org, just putter around if you have never done that because they really are doing such important work. Uh, for those of you who are intrigued by the world of documentaries, by the way, and have thought about putting your own together, or maybe you have one in the works, or you have a folder on your desktop, or maybe you're further along than that, a quick heads up. This is the best title. Who Let the Docs Out has opened applications for the 2026 Coexistence Documentary Fund, which supports bold cinematic nonfiction that interrogates how modern society uses animals and what that costs animals, people, and the planet. The grants are not insubstantial. They include $8,000 for research or $4,000 for shorts and $15,000 for development, a sizzle, or $7,000 for shorts. And the spring cycle deadline is coming up fast on March 16th, 2026.
Yeah, even if
Doc
you're not making a documentary yourself, think about
Mhm.
friends and neighbors who might want to take advantage of
The
this.
website is docsout.org, and as always, we will put the link in our show notes. We have a lot of resources that we link to in the show notes, so be sure to check that out. We did a interview the other day. When is that airing? Our interview with Paul Watson and Sarah Levy.
Not this Friday.
Yeah, we have some exciting things
I think
coming up, and
I think
that
that's in
was
March. Like how is February over?
because it's so oh my gosh, I saw the funniest meme the other day. It was like, um, a challenge, like an internet challenge to not buy craft supplies on February 30th and 31st.
I'm
It
gonna
was
do that.
yeah, me too. It was very funny, but
I have
the
a niece whose birthday is the 29th.
I
I don't think
know.
there's not a 29th this year, is there?
No,
It's always exciting when it is.
she's like 4 or 5 now, even though she's like,
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's so special to be born on the 29th, and it's
Her
super
mother, when
special.
she was born, was like, "Oh my God, like it's hard enough to tell them what a birthday is."
That's really funny. That's really funny. Well, Rising Anxiety is everyone's favorite. It comes out on Tuesdays, the Hen Report on Thursdays, and the long form interviews on Fridays, as I mentioned earlier. I meant to ask you, since you've been doing Rising Anxieties for so long at this point, do you feel like there are any, trends that are changing in terms of what's coming out from animal ag? Because just for people who are new to our hen house, the randos, welcome randos. Rising Anxieties is kind of like your commentary on what the animal ag industry is saying, more or less. And
Yeah,
I'm
it
just
used to be
wondering.
mostly what they were worried about, but I've broadened it a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think they're as worried as they used to be. They must be. I mean, obviously, they're worried about economic issues. They hardly ever talk about climate, which is just bizarre. I mean, they do. I would say water is a huge issue. I would say they used to worry about us more than they do now. Maybe they're
Really?
just more used to us. Like, I think it was a real shock. When I first started following this, it was, yeah, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. They just ignored uh, the treatment of the animals. Nobody ever talked about it, hardly. And then the animal rights movement started really gearing up, and it
Mhm.
became a big worry for them. And now they've well, they still talk about it, but not as much. I think that they think they have it under control, which makes me sad. So that's all rather depressing. They're definitely more worried about water, but and disease.
Well,
They're
in what
they're
way?
worried
Like
about disease.
water and disease in what way do you mean?
That
Just
well, particularly the beef industry, that the place where they graze cows are, they just don't get enough water. I mean, there's a huge drought in the West, and and it's ongoing for years. And that's one of the reasons that they're starting to do more beef on dairy, which is to raise the calves of the male calves, but also some of the female calves of dairy cows who, constantly produce calves because they have to in order to produce the milk, and raising them rather than killing them for veal as they used to. They're raising them to get bigger, basically in a factory farm condition, uh, for beef.
Mm.
And one of the reasons they're doing that is that the way they raise cows for beef now is out on the range. And then, I mean, not everybody, but that's the standard method in these smaller operations, cow calf operations. And then when they're about a year old, they ship them off to feedlots. So they're only kind of factory farmed when they're older. And this would mean they're factory farmed for basically their whole lives. And one of the reasons is that you can do that anywhere. You don't have to be out in the West like with the cowboys or whatever. So that's a big issue. I don't know, things shift, but it's almost all the same. Like they just think they're wonderful, or they pretend to think they're wonderful. They
Mm.
love their industry. They love everybody in their industry. The amount of denial about what they're really doing is really complete. I don't think it's a lie for most of them, and it really makes you wonder about human nature. All right, on that cheery note.
Do you do you have a particular thing that you like reporting about the most in Rising Anxieties?
Well, I do like it when they're worried about stuff we're doing. I mean, that's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Because they get very, very incensed.
All right. Well, Rising Anxieties remains my favorite, everyone else's favorite too.
It is not
So
everybody's favorite. You're trying to make me feel better.
no, I'm not. I don't do that.
I
I'm
mean, I
not
think
willing.
some people like it. It's not everybody's favorite. I think the interviews are by far the favorite. It's like we have to face the fact it's not us.
Do you know who our interview is? I get lost with the schedule, like who
Oh,
would
on
be.
this coming Friday?
Yeah.
Or tomorrow,
Tomorrow.
actually.
Mhm.
Tomorrow. Cameron Harsh. Yeah, it's Cameron Harsh from World Animal Protection talking about the bird pet trade, which I was not that familiar with. And we've already recorded the interview. And is pretty horrifying. But really, there are things about birds, too, because of how long they live and how incredibly sensitive they are and emotional they are and how attached they get because they're basically flock animals that are, really, really important for people to understand. And
Mhm.
they did a pretty deep dive into bird mills.
Yeah. I learned a lot in this episode too, and I think it's a great interview. So I'm looking forward to that airing. And send us your thoughts if you learn things too.
And
We're
the
always interested.
Paul Watson and
Who
Sarah Levy.
Levy, I think.
Oh,
Levy.
Levy, right.
I
Who
think
wrote this book. I'm holding it up for people who are listening. The Only Flag Worth Flying, Direct Action and the Enforcement of International Marine Conservation Law. This is dressed up as a serious academic book, which it indeed is, and it is radical.
yeah, it's really good. I found it fascinating that he does not consider himself a pessimist. It's
Yeah, I know.
usually
I think it's personality. It really is. Because what he has seen.
yeah. Do you think it has to do with the fact that he has kids, like, on the
I
younger
think
side?
I'm not sure that can go either way. I think people who are basically optimists are more likely to have kids.
Mm. That makes sense.
And then
But it was
once you have kids, you have more of an incentive to hold on to that optimism.
yeah, yeah. I feel like people have really strong opinions about this, and we might hear from some folks. Feel free to reach out. And by the way, Jen Riley, who has been one of our team members here at our hen house for years and has just been amazing in the animal protection movement for decades, really wants me to remind you to remember our hen house in your estate planning, because we actually did we were the beneficiary of part of someone's estate recently, which we were not expecting, and it was so thoughtful and
What
kind.
a unbelievable gift. And it
Yeah.
really is like going to make the difference between us making our budget this year or not.
Mhm.
So
Right.
what an
So
extraordinary gift. I think of it often.
me too, me too. So thank you, because we are a nonprofit, so it's something to keep in mind. And thank you for those of you who believe in the power of pro-animal media, which
And
is
we
what we're
want you to
doing.
stay alive. I
Stay
just
alive.
want you to know that. We would rather
Yeah,
you
we don't
stay
want you
alive.
to Don't kick the bucket. We need you. The animals need you. And we need you. So thanks for being out there. And until next time, keep changing the world for animals.